Welcome back, everyone. Let's continue to our conversation on the program over the issues of insecurity and perhaps the issues of restructuring is creeping into the conversation. Over the last week, there was a renewed call to restructure Nigeria. It is coming on the heels of the recent attacks, killings, and series of economic and political issues being raised in the country. Former President Goodluck Jonathan said the solution to our present problems is to implement the recommendations of the 2014 National Conference. The death of the daughter of the Affirmative leader, Prof, has brought rather an intense and more critical tone to the conversation. How do we tackle what has now become a national nightmare? I have joining me to shed some light and perhaps chart some way forward an expert, Professor of Criminology, a member of the Presidential Committee Against Corruption, Professor Femi in Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Professor. It's good to see you again tonight. And here in our Lagos studio is a member of the Affirmative sociocultural group in Nigeria, one of the groups that are being in the forefront of the clamor for restructuring in Nigeria, Mr. Yinka Odumakin. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And we sincerely condone with the daughter of one of your leaders, the death of Mrs. Olakunrin. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Let me quickly come, Professor. From a professional point of view, a lot of Nigerians want to know where we see the issues of kidnapping. Before 2011, around 2011, or let's say around 2009, you can trace the issues of Boko Haram in the northeastern region of the country and how to tackle them. We've discussed that at large. And this government will tell you that they have done that to a large extent. But now the issues of pockets of kidnaps, pockets of banditry, pockets of attacks on our highways, in our forests, in farmlands, and all of that. What do you think is at the center of it? Perhaps, what would you describe as the cause of this upsurge in these pockets of attacks?
Thank you very much. As I've always said, either on your program, when I was giving lead presentation at the Ondo for Security Summit or the Dawn Summit about a few weeks ago, I'm not one of those who are going to engage in what is politically correct or incorrect, because like you said, I'm a criminologist, I'm a social scientist. And I take the position that in our context, most of our security challenges are actually developmental challenges. And actually, what is happening to us now is not an unexpected variegation of what is being on the ground. In other words, it's an aggravation of an existing problem of crime, which we have had for the past 4 or so decades. And I would like to point out that if any country that wants to have optimum security, there is no country that has maximum security. For any country that wishes to have optimum security, it must first be sure that there is development. In other words, not just growth, but that the growth is translated into development, which means improvement in the quality of living, of existence of the population, and which improvement must be evenly distributed in the population, not just to the 1% on top, and the remaining 90 or 99% are dying in poverty. In other words, when you make majority of your citizens not to be stakeholders in the political, economic, and social life of the country, then you have a problem of insecurity. The higher the number of the stakeholders, the less the problem of insecurity. And the lower the number of stakeholders, the higher the issue of the problem of insecurity. Now, secondly, for a country to have optimal security, after ensuring what I've just talked about as the first prerequisite, the second prerequisite is that there must be an informed and integrated criminal justice system of the policing, of the administration of criminal justice, and of the correctional system with the values of the society. Now, my submission is that we have not had this kind of development for decades in the country, and secondly, our criminal justice system has not manifested any rational or informed integration. Why this is not a classroom, but I have to point out that there is a dynamic relationship between development and the security of a nation. That is what has happened. And if you see it that way, then this matter of banditry, car snatching, people snatching, ransom, and whatever, as far as I'm concerned, are simply fresh manifestations of the problem of crime. And to deal with it, there are two ways. The first is that the country, to avoid this thing becoming anarchic and becoming permanent feature of Nigerian society, you must start that translation of growth into development, so that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we won't have the same situation. But for the immediate now, then you must have appropriate policing formally. You must have a situation whereby traditional rulers will be mobilized to perhaps use hunters to join others in the forest. People like organizations like OPC and other informal resources must be employed to be able to sort of collaborate with the law enforcement agencies. And of course, as Mogalu said earlier on, you don't have enough policing, whether in terms of quantity or quality. The country is under police, not only in terms of the number, but in terms of their quality, in terms of their training, in terms of their deployment, in terms of the resources available to them. But this cannot be done overnight, which is why now the country, to deal with the problem on the ground, they must rely on what I've categorized as firefighting approach. All efforts must be on deck. And this is why the leader of the country must try to avoid distractions, because there are some distractions now that are going on and therefore complicating the matters. For example, the matter of the herdsmen. Every crime that occurs is attributed to the Fulani herdsmen. And I, just like in the university, when I was active, I used to advise the authorities. Instead of focusing on cultism, they should focus on violations of the code of conduct of the university. So whether you are a member of a so-called court, or you're a member of the Muslim society, or you're a member of the Christian society, or whatever society, if you violate the code of conduct of the university, you get dismissed, or you get expelled, and you get punished. Similarly, all those who are committing crimes.
Yeah. Sorry, if I may but
before that, just to say that all those who are committing crimes must be dealt with, regardless of who they are.
Right. I want to know, there was a time in this country when armed robbers will write a community, they will write a street, they will write a particular area in the country, in some part of the Southwest where I grew up, and they will say, we are coming to rob you on so and so date. They will make true to the promise, they will come and rob, and they will go. At that time, let's picture that and imagine that is the kind of situation we have on our hands. Some of these bandits and killers have told the nation, we are coming to maim and kill your people. So if that is the situation on our hands, as the father of the house, you will not sit back and wait for them to come kill you. You must take a decision. Let's assume they are coming tomorrow to kill another person, God forbid. What do you think must be urgently done tonight or tomorrow morning to avoid further killings in the country?
This is the point I made, that now we are not talking about the constitutive factor of the disjointed development we have had, which has created the privileges for the few and deprivations for the many, which has led to a poor economy in a rich society. We are not dealing with that now. That is for the future. That's for tomorrow. But for the immediate, there is need for firefighting approach. And to that extent, I expect the federal, the state, and local government to relate in a way that they will recruit new law enforcement people, train them thoroughly, resource them thoroughly, and make them available at every level of the society. And I said there are other informal inputs. I said the traditional rulers who are aware of the hunters in the villages around them, who are aware of vigilantes in the community, should be mobilized. There are other informal groups like the OPC. They used to serve certain purposes, And they could, now particularly that the Oga there has been made the area of the Kakanfo, the world leader of that region of the country, perhaps he could put his people to use to at least deal with that problem in that part of the country. And those, like Mogalu said earlier on, Anambra had an approach to the problem when they were invaded. Certain parts of the country also have people who could help. Like in the Northeast, for example, the vigilantes have been offered at one point in time or the other to the military. And there are such groups all over the country that could be of help.
Let me perhaps ask you a pointed question, Professor. And the question will be, you've questioned the capacity of the state apparatus, the police, for example, to handle this question. Professor Wole Soyinka said, the government of the political leadership does not have what it takes to tackle this problem. What's your thoughts?
I don't think any government, whether at the federal or the state level, will be pleased not to provide security for its people. I think I'm not able to buy that position that the government may be unwilling. Now, but the instruments available to government, like I said, like the policing, the police force, and other ancillary agencies of government, to what extent are they equal to the task, whether in terms of their numbers, or in terms of their training, or in terms of their deployment? We don't want to spend time go into the laxities that is responsible for the policing situation in the country today. I've argued over the years that there should be some socialization of the police in terms of the way they do their work. That there should be a situation whereby there should be the technologization of justice so that people will feel attuned to the justice system. And that instead of focusing on the criminal, why don't we also focus on the victim so that the population can cooperate and be informant and encourage intelligence-driven policing? Even in terms of correction. Take, for example, now all the people they are arresting, whether they are herdsmen or they are not herdsmen, wherever they are. To what extent are you using them, using psychology and psychiatrists to deal with those of them that could be of use to you, to finger the way to the others? Those who will give you information, their modus operandi, and they will be your agents. These are the kind of out-of-the-box situations that I say let me employ.
Okay.
Particularly in light of the current deficiencies of the existing law enforcement system.
Okay. Let me come to Lagos for a moment. Because this conversation, when Professor Mogalu was talking about the need to now restructure this country. I know Affirmative has been at the forefront. The Middle Belt Forum. These are the groups and organizations that you belong to. You were in Akure yesterday to condole with the family of Pafashonati. Yeah. With what is happening, Affirmative had come out. In fact, almost very quickly after the incident happened. And there was a stand of an Affirmative on this matter. Yeah. Have you reviewed that stance on what has happened and perhaps a way forward?
Well, we have not reviewed it. It's unfortunate that we have reached a point where human life is no longer safe in our country. As to what is said about Ms. Funke Lakunrin, we stand by it. That she was murdered, and all eyewitness accounts so far indicate to us that she was murdered by Fulani herdsmen.
What are the facts?
What are the facts? Yes, I'm just coming from Akure now. We've spoken with the driver of the vehicle, who said she saw Fulani herdsmen who stopped the car, and then the first guy that approached them, who had tribal marks, Fulani marks, and was shooting at the car. When you inspect the car in which Funke Lakunrin was killed, you will see that most of the bullets came from our side of the car, which suggested some targeting. Now, her immediate junior brother, Kende Fashionati, said when she got to our police station, shortly after the incident, the police confirmed that those who killed her were Fulani herdsmen. And some pattern have been followed, which just led credence to this. I can tell you that up to this moment, the way police are very cautious in handling anything that involved Fulani herdsmen, it has been so in this case. The car in which Funke was killed, as I take this 40 hours ago, that car is in the compound of Papa Fashionti as I speak to you. You have expected that if police are interested in any investigation, that car will be with the police now. They will be taking all they need to do forensic, do everything. But as I talk to you, that car is in the father's compound.
As I suggest that there was a conclusion to the matter. That's why they dropped the car, or maybe the driver drove the car to Papa Fashionti's house, or what?
No.
I mean, what led you to that conclusion?
The statements that the police issued on this death could have been something even typed before the incident, because there was no level of investigation carried out by the police to come to the conclusion which Femi Adesina was quoting, that police said that, oh, this was by armed robbers. In her car, she had money in her car, the money was intact, she had her phones, her jewelry, nothing was taken from her car. The only person that was abducted from that scene was the driver of her backup car, one Femi Ajayi, who, as we speak, is still with them.
With the abductors?
Yes. Now, clearly, what you see in all this is a pattern. Like I said, if the police are interested in any investigation, that car will be with them now. When she was killed on Friday, the car slept out of the police station, where I don't think they have enough torchlights, not talk of having any equipment to investigate this kind of crime. By yesterday, the family went there. The car was released to them. There was no attempt to even take the car to the state capital for this kind of high-level murder. And like I told you, it's on record. Go and find it. Kennedy Fashion made it clear that the police told him that these are Fulani men who had just killed his sister. Now, there's a danger that we see here. Professor Adekule was talking earlier about the question of the point we have in Nigeria, that people blame crimes on some people. In this instance, there's no blame of the crime. This is what has happened. And there has, as of yesterday evening, a correspondent of Ondo State Police Corporation called me and said that the Ondo State Police PPRO, as at 8 p.m. yesterday night, a day before yesterday, was saying that he could not link Funke Olakunrin with Fashionati.
Let me pause it for a moment, Mister. There are some very interesting things that you're saying that needs to also be put in proper perspective. But we take a break. Before we take that break, let's remind you of this on our Did You See That segment on the program. The senator from Adamawa State, accused of assaulting a woman at a sex toy shop in Abuja, is under scrutiny by his colleagues. A committee set up by the Senate to probe the situation. But in the course of that, this happened. Watch.
Protect you, or do you want us to defend you, or you want to be on your own? Because do you realize that the Senate, I want that mic and let me finish. Do you realize that the Senate, when we constitute this, whatever the law gives, we can also suspend you? Do you realize that?
Welcome back, everyone. Let's continue with the conversation, and we're looking forward to the conversation on how we can tackle and end the incessant killings, the senseless killings of innocent Nigerians. Some of the situation that's happened over the past days. So, Mr. Yinka Odumakin is a member of Affirmative. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. And Professor Femi Odekunle is a professor of criminology from Abuja. So he's been given some professional advice on the way forward. You were talking about, Mr. Odumakin, talking about the situation as regarding the daughter of Power Fashionti. You heard what the APC leader Bola Tinubu said, and Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the kind of move the federal government says they were going to take in tackling the issue on the ground. This death, is one too many. But again, it then brings to the table on how we need to move forward from here to make sure that we stop a further killing of innocent Nigerians. But you're raising some very critical allegations against the police about the manner in which they have handled the situation. What are you implying, or what are you saying exactly?
Well, first of all, let me say that the last speaker was saying that we should not allow this death to divide us. Then the question I want to ask him is that, how long are we going to continue to use our blood to sustain the unity of this country? As for the question of the allegations we have raised, ask your reporter to go to Prof. his house. As we speak, the car in which Funke was killed 48 hours ago is in his compound.
Do you believe in what the police could do in this regard?
Oh, so when such a happened, someone was killed in the car, shot several times, and then you release the car to the family for 24 hours after, it means that you are not interested in investigation. That's the first thing. But as part about the question of leadership in the country, in year 2000 in this country, there were clashes between the OPC and the Hausa people in Lagos. President Obasanjo was the president of this country then. He went on air and issued shoot at sight order against OPC, who are his own kinsmen, to justify the confidence of the country as a human man is not inside with people. But have we seen such a thing against the herdsmen who are killing people today? At every point in time, it's either when was a Minister for Information like Mohammed, Garba Shehu, and Femi, and making excuses for them. In fact, when they are accused of any crime today, they don't come out to defend themselves. It's our government officials who are busy making excuses, defending the people. So how can you stop what they're doing?
What would you like the president to do?
The first of all, Affirmative has called on the president last year that it's not heavy for the president of Nigeria, a multi-ethnic nation like Nigeria, for our president to remain the grand patron of Military Group. It's a conflict of interest. We have had stories of people, when people are attacked, they go to the police. The minute they mention the herdsmen, the police are not ready to take their reports. How many, if a policeman, will you take reports and indict?
I mean, you are indicting the police, Mr. Odumakin, that
yes.
The police are not ready to take their report. Do you have evidence to all of this?
I can tell you, I will bring Professor Jayola to here. Professor Jayola, member of Affirmative, was attacked between Ekiti and Lesha, shot at by herdsmen. He got to the next police station. I've come to make a report. I was attacked now. My car was shot, and then they were writing. The moment he mentioned herdsmen, I said, no, you cannot report here. Go to the next police station. He got to the next police station, go to the last police station. And it's that same pattern that we have seen.
It's the stance of that
in Funke's mother, that somebody was murdered, the car in which he was killed, in 24 hours is back in the father's compound.
Does Affirmative
what kind of country do that?
Does Affirmative think that there's a deliberate attack on Fashionati's daughter?
Clearly, until he's proven otherwise, when you go to and see that car, there is a suggestion to us that this would have possibly been a targeted killing.
And I know that Affirmative is talking about restructuring.
Yes.
You think that now is the time?
Well, I think time is running out. I think time is even running out on restructuring at this stage. We have called for restructuring right from this development law, and it just be a proper federalism. We have been strong on this in all the years during the Abiola crisis, when the youth was annulled. Justice, let's restructure Nigeria. Up to now, I've continued to do that. But even now, at this point in time, if care is not taken, we are moving to a point where we even over restructuring and people say don't want again. Because we are losing faith in the country. It's when you have a faith in the polity. That's why bring everybody back to the table. Let us structure.
Let me ask Professor Odekunle. I mean, a lot of Nigerians, eminent Nigerians, have talked about restructuring Nigeria. From your own standpoint, do you think that is the way? And if not, what would be the solution, the way out immediately? Political solution.
Okay, I have about 2 things to say. I will come to your restructuring question last. First is this, that I am not a policeman, so I am not, and I wasn't there in that part of on that part of the road, and I've not talked to the police, but therefore I'm not in a position to say whether or not the unfortunate perpetration was perpetrated by the Fulani herdsmen. But I would just suggest that in dealing with the matter on the ground, in addition to what I've said about socioeconomic development that has lagged for the past 4 decades, if you don't want country to become lawless on a permanent basis, you have to start working on that right away. As for the immediate problem, of course, Mr. Olakunrin is a human being, like many other human beings that have been killed since this criminal situation had worsened. So I do mourn with the family. I do appreciate the loss. I mean, nobody would like to lose their relative or their friend or whoever. But what I'm saying is that we need to be careful in apportioning blame. If other people are committing crimes, not only as men, and then we're always thinking of as men, it will then amount to a distraction for the police force as deficient as they are. It will be a distraction if all they have to deal with is Fulani harassment. And you know, and that's what the government should do. The government should follow some of the suggestions I've made about use of traditional rulers, use of hunters, monitoring of motorcycles and tricycles, particularly in forests and villages. And in addition to that, government should also handle leaders who actually exacerbate this situation by some of the speeches they are making. Okay. Like today, I will tell you this. Somebody just told me that actually Fulani men are the one in a new passport. And I was shocked, and I just renewed my passport. So I went to check, and I discovered actually Fulani men, as other parts of Nigeria, as a typical Nigerian, is like a Yoruba man or an Igbo man or a TV man, and they were represented on the pages of that new passport.
Yeah, Prof, we need to leave it at that because of our time. Because we're out of time, we need to go now. But Mr. Odumaki, just in 10 seconds, yes. So your final word.
My final word is clearly that at this stage in Nigeria, we must enforce law and order across the board.
All right.
We cannot continue to shield any group from the law when it comes to crimes.
All right. I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Yinka Odumaki, member of the Affirmative, and also Professor Femi Odekunle, a professor of criminology. Thank you so much for coming on tonight on the show. Just before we go, my final word, everyone. If you are a president for a day, imagine the enormity of the task and the pressure. And I don't take it lightly when the president said he's under pressure to set up a cabinet. If he fails, he will be blamed for it. Don't forget, in Nigeria, you will have to consider the constitution and the technicalities and the technical provision for that. The issues of ethnicity and religion, party input, capacity, security checks, and all of those. For a moment, let's be fair. It is natural for the President Muhammadu Buhari, to be under pressure. But President, let me quickly help you with a piece of advice, but you don't have to pay for it. These are some of the feelers I'm getting from Nigerians, that you need to reduce the pressure on some of what is happening in the country. Please consider some of the following. A great asset to a good leadership is hope. A leader cannot overemphasize on the issue of hope. He needs to sell it to his followers, and people need to have what they need to hold on to. Again, is the issue of insecurity. It matters. It will be a drastic action on the issue of insecurity. Nigerians want you to speak to them more often. Reach out, perhaps go to the street. Your people want to hear directly from you. And please, in all you do, be cautious of ethnicity and religious consideration. There is anger about some of your actions on that. Above all, there is a more urgent need to unite the people of Nigeria. And so that's how we leave it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching tonight on the show. Many thanks. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye-bye.